Hello, and welcome to the Sacred Heart Shaman podcast, where we talk about spiritual healing, shamanic wisdom, and the challenges of walking the healer's path. My name is Nadia Harenkiu, and today is episode number 39, Exploring the Mother Archetype. Good morning, and thank you for joining me on the podcast today. We're going to be talking about an archetype, and archetypes are not typically my jam. However, I have one that is coming up very, very loudly for me, and it's kind of prompting me to have a conversation about this specific archetype. This is not a topic that I would usually undertake because, from an intellectual or academic standpoint, I don't really understand archetypes. The way that I experience them and understand them is very multidimensional and very nonlinear, and so they're incredibly difficult to talk about because they're just so big. They're just so big and so complicated. However, it's what's asking to come through for me right now, so we're going to roll with it. And today we're going to talk about the mother archetype. So this is alive for me in my life right now because I'm being asked to initiate into a deeper surrender into mother energy. So I am a mom. I have two kids, a 14-year-old and a 19-year-old, both of which are extremely complicated, high-level beings, as I talked a little bit about in my Sensitive Kids podcast, my Highly Sensitive Kids Rainbow Children podcast, which I think was the last one that's still listed. Side note here, some of my podcasts have disappeared. There's a reason for that, and I will revisit it at a later date. So there's a little bit of gaps in the episodes, but you know what? It's all good. Back to the mother thing. So I am a mother, and I have been a mother for quite some time. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the history there for me so that it can put context around this topic and around what's going on in my life currently. So when I was 19 years old, I got pregnant. I had never wanted children. In fact, I was pretty firm on that, being the only thing that I knew for certain about my life is that I didn't want kids. And so I didn't plan for it. I was on birth control. Doctors told me I actually couldn't have kids. I had so many issues with my reproductive system, and so I didn't really worry about it until I was faced with pregnancy. And for me, it didn't really feel like a choice. It was like, oh, you either have this kid or you don't, and not having one felt absurd. It felt not right for me. So I decided to have my little one when I was 19, got married to a military man. It was one of the biggest mistakes of my life because I thought that that's what you had to do when you were going to have a baby. Now, that person turned out not to be an incredibly awesome individual and had some issues with the pedophile thread. And so he didn't spend much time in my life. And very quickly after, I became a single mother. Now, for those of you who know the hardship of single motherhood, there's nothing quite like it. You have a tiny being who depends on you for everything. And you have to be both simultaneously in survival mode and also in nurturing mode. And it's nearly impossible to do both of those things well. And that's kind of how my reflection on that era of my life has been. That's what it's led me to understand is like you can't do both of those things well. You can't provide and nurture and be loving and also be in survival mode. So being that I was only 19, I had to work multiple jobs, 3 jobs. I had to work weird shifts. I had to work terrible positions that put me in a lot of like abusive dynamics with clients and companies and attorneys. It was a really, really rough period of my life. And I also spent much of that time looking for a partner to be the one who provided for us, to be the one who could bring in money or create structure to make sure that we were going to be okay, that we were going to survive. So, already I'm painting the picture here of the next 20 years of my life by telling you this story, but it's important. So, I never planned to be a mother. It was sprung on me. The universe told me I didn't have a choice. Well, I guess abortion was a choice, but it didn't feel like one. And then it set the ball rolling for future partnership, for jobs, for education. I ended up going to school online, finished my bachelor's years later. Still intended to go to law school right up until I had my spiritual awakening spontaneously. And that was the early motherhood for me. Working too much, literally putting alcohol in my smoothies in the morning just to function, um, being in survival. I was straight in survival for the first 4 years of my oldest child's life. And then my ex-husband came along and we decided to play house together. We had another child, and I got to do a lot of redoing with that child. I got to redo the pregnancy. I got to redo how I felt about motherhood, how I approached my second child. But even still, I hit this block when they were about 6 months old. That was like, get me out of here. I can't do this. Went back to work, threw myself into it, and religiously avoided being a parent for the next 2 years. Laid it all on my ex, which, tells you a little bit about the foundation of my marriage. There's a lot more to it. There was a lot of not so nice tendencies between the both of us, not just myself. But I really struggled with the mom piece. And, I didn't have a terrible mother. She's a very nice person. She's doing the best that she can. I think she does better in grandmother than in mother role because she too was in survival. She was in the game where you climb the ladder as a woman because we have a harder time reaching the top, of business, of corporations. And so she couldn't really be present with us because she was too busy working. So I have all that going on in the background, in the history of my mother wounding, my mother archetype. And most recently, I have been thrown back into motherhood. So I have my youngest child with me now for the last month and a half or so, um, full time. This was also unexpected. My ex and I have joint custody, and due to a series of events, I had to relocate, and I didn't expect to take my child with me. In fact, I had kind of given up this notion of being a parent for the time being in the best interest of the child. I thought I was doing the right thing. And now I have the child back, and I have a insane mother layer coming up for me. Absolutely insane. And I have so much anger and frustration and desire and longing and, oh, so many stories. What does it even mean to be a mother when it's your only job? What does it mean to carry mother energy? What happens when you slide into martyrdom? What happens when you don't have a father in the picture? Where does motherhood show up in other places? And all of this stuff is coming up for me right now. And so I want to talk about the mother archetype. So when I say archetype, I'm talking about, let's see if I can describe this. It's like a template or a specific energy signature that exists in all of us. And sometimes it exists briefly, sometimes it's dormant, sometimes it's out for everybody to see. Sometimes it's there for years, and it's presenting with other archetypes as well. But mother is like, it's a big one, especially for women. But it's also in men. Now, through my work, motherhood has been a huge part of my calling. A lot of people will tell me that when they work with me, they feel very big mother presence, mother energy. A lot of being held, a lot of nurturing, a lot of unconditional love, and a lot of protection. And I love that. And I never really understood why I carried that energy. I didn't understand it because again, didn't want to be a mom. And I was a mom for many years. I am still a mom, obviously. And I really brought myself to enjoy it and be really great at it, but for some reason I still didn't really identify with it, which is so fascinating. And I think this is what's coming up for me now. So, mother is more of just a biological role, right? It's an energy that we all relate to in some way. And in this podcast, I want to invite you to feel into your own relationship with this archetype, where it lives inside you, where it lives outside you, in your dynamics, in your family, both your chosen and like your childhood family. What does it look like from an ancestral standpoint or for a cultural standpoint? Mother looks different depending on our backgrounds. Where were we raised? Where does our bloodline come from? Traditionally, what did the mothers of those places and times look like? How did they behave? So I want to invite you to think about those things as we call forth the mother archetype and kind of talk about it a little bit. So what is the mother archetype? It's the universal energy of nurturing, creation, holding, and care. Think about that. When you think about your mother or being a mother, you create little beings, literally. If you don't have children, you may create business, you may create art. Creation is present in so many facets of our life. It's not just about our children. But that creation energy is very distinct. You have something that comes in, you gestate on it, you birth it, you present it, you love it, you let it go. If you know how to let it go, you let it go. Because that's part of the role, is to create and let go and create and let go over and over and over again. Some of us are really great at that, some of us not so much. But it kind of gives you a bigger picture of what mother is, of what this archetype represents. And it is alive in all genders. It can show up in how we care for ourselves, for others, our ideas, projects, employees, animals. Motherhood is everywhere. So there is some light side of the mother, as in the quote unquote positive qualities, being nurturing, being compassionate, being creative, supporting other people or yourself without trying to control them. Think of men or women who you know that know how to hold space without making it about them. That's a very motherhood kind of role, right? If we're talking about healthy motherhood, oh man, I'm like having a realization as I'm talking right now. I'm going to come back to that in a second. If we're talking about healthy motherhood, you know how to hold space without making it about you. And this is something I've always struggled with about being a mother, is how unattached I felt with regard to my children. Completely unattached, with the exception of some things that I still have wounding about, like weight, like physical appearance. Still those freaking areas that I can't seem to get to the bottom of. But I've always struggled with this non-attachment piece and feeling like I'm just a steward for these little beings, period. I'm supposed to love the heck out of them, give them everything they need, and let them go. And I'd never see that to the same magnitude with other people. And I always thought it was because something was wrong with me, because I was like unattached as a mother. And I think I'm just realizing that it actually means I'm doing a great job. So we're going to have a yay Nadia moment. But when you're able to hold space for someone and not attach to them or to their outcome, and you just love them like unconditionally, irrevocably, oh, deep, deep love. That's a mom thing. That's a mother thing. And some of us may have a really easy time with that, and some of us may not. And that does go back to the mother wound. So when we talk about archetypes and wounding, this is where you would see the wounds come up, right? If you're not able to hold a container for someone else without getting your stuff all up in there, you've got a mother wound. If you can't be supportive without trying to control, mother wound. Or the compassionate, the nurturing piece. Are you able to nurture your children or your business or yourself in the way that it needs to be nurtured? And if not, why? Creation too is a big part of this. Being able to create things in life for yourself, literal human beings, all parts of the mother archetype. Now I'll say I'm gonna like share a personal story here. Recently I had a very different experience with the mother energy than I've ever had before. So I've always been really great about like making my kids the right, like good food and being really compassionate and listening and collaborating and not judging them and really being supportive, like the most supportive you can be. I'm really good at all of those things and I really enjoy them. And recently I had the experience of like mama bear energy. I had a child in a kind of dire situation and I had to overcome my own fear and my own hesitation to pull them out of this situation. And it was like something that took a period of weeks to accomplish. But when it came down to the moments of action, I felt like I had thousands of women behind me. Like I had an army behind me, literally pushing me forward. And I had so much power, like in my body, in my heart, in my energy. Like, when you think of like Braveheart, like the Braveheart meme where he's riding into battle with the face paint and roaring, like that's how I felt. I've never felt mama bear energy before, and it was so cool. It's so cool. I do occasionally get it with my work because, again, my work is space that I have created. It's space that I'm in charge of. It's my baby in a lot of ways. And I've had to keep other people out for the safety of my clients or participants or volunteers. Like I have had to go into that like rawr, get out kind of energy. But what happened recently with my kid was like days. I was sitting in that energy for days. I was so pumped up. I could not sleep. I felt like there was like yelling and celebrating behind me the whole time. It was wild. So that was kind of a cool mother power that I recently had the amazing experience with. Now, there is some shadow side of the mother, which I think most people are more familiar with. Mothers, when coming from a wound, if you have an unresolved mother wound, you're going to have the tendency to overgive, to overcommit yourself, to pour into things too much. For me, that came up in my work a lot, where I would agree to work with clients who weren't giving enough into the relationship. Like I would give you homework, you wouldn't do it, or guidance or something. And I'm not talking about complicated things. I'm talking about simple things. Yeah, they might take time, but like circling back without doing it. And you can't expect a practitioner to show up 100% if you're not showing up 100%, or at least 50, right? And I noticed that I was always overextending to meet people that additional 50. Like, let me show up 150 and then you only have to show up 50. Instead of just being like, you know what, we can't really work together because you're not meeting me at the baseline that I need in order to do my job. And that was huge. And it didn't happen until I moved back in with my parents and got to do some serious mother wound and father wound healing. Martyrdom is another huge thing, right? Sacrificing yourself for the well-being of your child or the family. And that can look so many different ways. You know, being the one who does all the cleaning or the cooking or all the working or all the caring for the kids and keeping track of all the things. That's a huge, huge issue in many, many cultures. America is definitely not the only one. And it's unfortunate that people, instead of tending to that wound, are just swinging the total opposite way. And women aren't showing up, or mothers, or people in their mother archetype are not showing up at all because they're too busy rebelling against the martyrdom. It's easier to just kind of understand martyrdom, acknowledge it, and work on it in yourself. The shadow side of mother archetype also tends to smother and be emotionally manipulated. And that happens a lot when we feel like we don't have power and control, when we're not getting things that we need, typically because we're not speaking up and saying we need them, or because we're giving up our control in exchange for something else. Then we end up bringing manipulation in. It's a huge shadow problem. Huge. Then you have the absent or withholding mother, who is emotionally unavailable, cold, and neglectful. And I definitely went through that era when my kids were really young and have had to do a lot of work around the shame and guilt around it. I'm grateful that it didn't last forever. And it's kind of a reminder that if any of these things have come up for you and they've been worked through as a layer, you're doing a great freaking job, okay? You're doing a great job because that's how healing happens. We encounter it in our journey of motherhood, of being in the mother archetype. We navigate it, we face it, we heal it, and we move on. And so those are the shadow pieces when it comes to the mother. Now, you, I'm sure, have heard many stories and myths around the mother archetype. Like, I don't know, when I think of mother, I think of, oh, well, I don't know, always mother, mama bears, but like Mother Teresa, right? The one who devoted herself, who was selfless, to help those less fortunate, to bring healing and wisdom. And I don't think she had her own children, but it's the whole God's children thing. And we see these like extreme versions of mother, or very biased, or very tainted with cultural beliefs. We see a lot of that, but we don't see a lot of wholly integrated mother archetype. What does it mean to be soft and nurturing, but also powerful AF? To create like a badass, to support everybody and not have manipulation and not try to control and not get caught up in drama. That kind of woman is freaking powerful. And I think that's why we don't see her a whole lot, at least not publicly. We don't talk about it. When it comes to healing the mother wound, that depends on the person and it depends on the wound. Like, we need to heal the relationship with our own mother, or lack thereof, because this is what shapes the archetype. And if your mother has passed on, you can still do the healing inside yourself. You can still work with someone who can play that role for you so that you can process and reflect and integrate mother wounds, turning them into healing. But it starts with healing the relationship with your own mother. And I have to say, unless you feel not good, but neutral, and I mean genuinely neutral, like be real with yourself. Do you feel neutral when it comes to your mother? How do you feel about her? How do you feel about your dynamic? What can you look at in your childhood and feel stickiness around? Like, oof, I still feel like there's something there and I don't want to address it right now. And that's okay too. But being aware is the first step. For me right now, I'm going through this thing with my mother where I'm seeing how I'm the adult and she is the child. And guys, she is not she's not old enough to be in this position yet, but it is playing out hardcore for us. And it is weird. It is super weird. And it's acknowledging the emotional maturity of my parents. And that's really hard. It's really hard to reconcile that and really hard to mend it and look at my childhood and be like, yeah, this is why things were like this. This is why this happened. It also helps me forgive. There's another piece that I can feel is still really sticky between me and my mom, and it's weight, it's appearance. And it's so interesting. Because when I was growing up, my mom to me was beautiful. She was this beautiful, strong, magnificent creature who worked her butt off. She always looked good. She was so disciplined. She always wanted to lose weight. Like it was always about the new diet and the new calories and the new counting and I got sucked into that really early. But I internalized everything that I saw. Everything she said about herself, I said right to me. Oh my God, if my beautiful, wonderful mother thinks that she is fat, I'm an elephant. And of course, I created that reality. And then I lived it. And only now, here I am at 39, finally able to feel neutral about my body, mostly. But it took a lot of time to get there, and I can see that there's still more. And she got it from her mother, and her from her mother. It's an ancestral wound that's going to take time to unravel. But as I stay with her, as I see the roots of this body image issue, I can see how clearly it's tied to personal power. I can see the difference between starving yourself and enjoying yourself, overindulging, we'll say, two extremes, in giving yourself enough to sustain, to build, and deprivation and weakness. It's really interesting. Diets and like, we'll just say diets, like what you put in your body, what you restrict from your body, is so closely tied to control from outside you and also inside you. So very connected to your personal power. It's really interesting. Anyway, so like those are some examples of wounds that are still being worked through between me and my mom. And because I've done so much work on our relationship and on my internal mother, I'm actually a pretty awesome mom at this point. I'm really proud of myself. It didn't have to wait until my next lifetime. So healing the relationship with your own mother is super important, and reparenting. So your parents are inevitably going to fall short in this category. Like that's part of life. Got to get over it. And reparent yourself. Learn to mother yourself. What are the things that you needed that you never got? Talk to your inner children. They will tell you exactly what they need. They always know. You also can invite your inner mother to show up with warmth and wisdom whenever you need her. Like for me, that looks like a very specific blanket where I know the moment that I need to be wrapped. I need to be swaddled. I need a warm cup of tea, and I invite in mother energy. Please hold me and nurture me right now. I need to be comforted. That's mother. And you will along the way find other methods to embody this archetype in a healthier way. So as I navigate my new mother terrain, I think the most interesting part for me is that, again, here I am at 39. I'm a single mom, round two, but yet I'm not in survival mode. I have support coming from multiple places, and because of that, I can be full-blown mother, all in. I can put clients down. I can turn away things that don't feel good. And I get to be 100% mom to my kid who, let's be real, needs like 10 moms. He needs like a tribe of moms. And that's a different role. That's a different level of mother. It's funny, you guys are going to hear the rain, I'm sure, in a second. It's pouring right now. And so I get the opportunity to go to a different corner of the mother archetype. What happens when you have nothing to be except a mother? You don't have to pay the bills. You don't have to be the one in charge. You don't have to tend the house. Living with my parents, while very challenging on many levels, has given me this opportunity to just be a mom, to spend 20 hours a week driving to doctor's appointments, to see 7 different practitioners and specialists, to give my kid all of the attention, all the love, all the coaching he needs in every single way. I never thought I would have this opportunity, and honestly, it drives me crazy sometimes, but it's really great. I'm having a lot of moments where I'm like, oh, I just need 5 minutes to myself. And then I remember, Nadia, he's 14. In 2 years, he's not going to want to sit on the back porch and have coffee with you. He's going to want to do his own thing. So love this moment while you have it. And to have that kind of presence is the greatest gift. But also to acknowledge my frustration has been really important too. I have a sad mother inside me. I have a frustrated mother inside me. I have the one who hoped for partnership to be mother and father together and didn't get it. I have the one who's tired because she's like, guys, I've been a mom for 19 years. Can I be done yet? And I need to hold space for all of the parts of the mother archetype. Because it's not just one. Archetypes are very complex. And I'm sure if you ask me next year, I'll have 5 more pieces for you. So to wrap up this podcast, I'm going to invite you to reflect on something. What's the relationship to the mother within you? What parts of you still need mothering? And where in your life might you be giving from a place of depletion versus a place of abundance? I invite you to journal on those 3 questions. They are super important and they are connected to the mother archetype in all of us. And I want to thank you for joining me today on this podcast, and I look forward to seeing you next time. If you enjoyed this podcast and want to know more about me and my work, you can find me at www.sacredheartshaman.com.